Thought you guys were going to get rid of me, huh? I told you I am full bore on getting into politics because it's so important. And on today's show, we're going to talk about some more of the fallout of this election. We're going to talk about some of those crazy clown cabinet picks, and we're going to talk about MTG and a whole host of other things. But I have a professional political talker that's going to be joining me today, ladies and gentlemen. He's going to answer some questions. He's going to let me know what he felt like happened and went wrong with this election. And you guys are going to learn a lot. The Lamont Tyson Life Gains YouTube Politics of Being Black show starts right now.
I'm up early for the dealers come out. Everybody is outside till the killers come out. You ain't eating, you just act full. I'm impactful. Dozen funerals in a month. I got that pull. I will give it to niggas in all rap forms. Ignatius out right now on all platforms.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you ever wanted to know where my little intro comes from, the one where I do the all loving, all feeling, all seeing, all powerful, just damn all everything, sexy as hell host, that inspiration is here in the form of my good buddy, Brit Whitmire, one half of the Brad and Brit podcast, former talk radio show host, current host of the Brad and Brit podcast. They do a lot of left-leaning talk. And he hosts a podcast called the Katie Vick is Alive Wrestling Podcast. A lot of y'all like wrestling on my show. Mr. Whitmire, how are you doing today?
LT, what's good, man?
Well, it ain't politics. I can tell you that shit. It definitely ain't politics. But it's good to have you here, brother. It's good to have you here.
It's good to be here. I'm glad you invited me. It's always an honor. And you did that whole all-seeing, all-knowing, that was a ripoff from Rush Limbaugh. He used to do that. That was one of the things he did was in his overblown intros before he actually got down to business, which took forever on the old Rush Limbaugh show. Gosh, we miss him, don't we?
Yeah. And I had to add my own thing. The sexy as hell, that's my part. I had to add my own thing to it, so it's not like I'm completely stealing his stuff. And honestly, I never knew about Rush Limbaugh until I heard you.
Oh,
so
is that right? Yeah.
I have to give you the credit. Definitely. So, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, he's half of the Brad and Brit podcast. The other half of the podcast is our good friend Brad. He's not here today. He's going through some health things, and I want to wish him well. These two guys have been the foundation of why I've learned so much in politics. They helped shape what I believe to be a good, equitable view of America. And I want to just send my special heart out to Brad. Wish you was here, brother. I'm going to do the best I can to sit in for you, but I've got some things working against me. Number one, I don't look as good as you. No. My hair definitely is not as good as yours, hence I'm wearing a damn hat. And number three, I am not as smart as you are at politics, so don't expect me to be a long-term option while you're gone. This might be a one night only, or it could be some more.
Yeah, Brad, people may not know, Brad was diagnosed with a disease called myeloma, which means, from what I understand and what I've read, is that his bone marrow is not producing enough white blood cells. And if nothing happens and they don't treat it, it eventually turns into leukemia. And he immediately started pretty aggressively treating it. They did a bone marrow transplant earlier this year. It didn't work out, so they have to do it again. He's on chemo right now, but he's rocking in there and keeping his head high. And I know he appreciates your well wishes there.
Definitely. And if you guys want to go to the Brad and Brit podcast, link is in the description. This is what it will look like when you pull it up. And if you want to check out the wrestling podcast, it looks just like this. Link is in the description. Let's get into it, Britt. I've got a list. It's got 7 items on it. But before we get into the list, a lot of the black women that follow me that voted for Kamala wanted to send you a message on behalf of them to the white women in your perspective that didn't vote for Kamala. Ladies and gentlemen, when we highlight and talk about the white folks, we're not talking about those of you that believe in equality, that believe in diversity, that voted for. We're not talking about y'all. This message, or should I say song, Brit, on behalf of the black women, is how they feel and wanted you to know about all the white women that were told in several advertisements. It's okay to go in there and vote for Kamala and not tell your husband.
Right.
What these hoes do, they went in there, they told their black friends, we're voting for Kamala. They took their ass in there and they voted for Trump. This is for the white women on your behalf.
Bitch, I don't play. I'm petty and I'm known to throw shade. Hating ho, please just go. Don't get cute, just walk away. Girl, bye, bitch.
That's what they wanted me to tell you, to tell the white women that you know that voted for Trump.
Well, there's over here on the white side of the aisle, there's a lot of blame to go around. It's not just the white women, it's the white males.
No.
There's a lot of that going around, for sure. So yes, the message is received as it should be.
Well, I educated them that the white women only ticked up 1% since Biden. So you can't put. Yeah. I've been the voice of reason here. It's funny and all that, but we got to stick to the facts. That's part of the problem with this country. We've decided to abandon facts and reasoning.
Yeah.
In essence, to get what we have in the White House. So, Brit, I haven't had a chance to talk to you about this. We've got Trump again.
Yeah.
What do you, since you've had some time to digest all the information and the data, in your opinion, what do you think are the issues that went wrong that got him back in office again?
I'll tell you right now that I think if you don't remember anything else that I say today on this podcast, I would want you to remember this. The stronger brand won. The more well-known brand won over a period of, I think it was 12 years or so on television, and having already been president one time, Donald Trump was better known to the American people than Kamala Harris was. And I know for some people, they're going to say, well, Hillary Clinton was a better known brand really than Donald Trump was in 2016. It was a bit of a fluke because, Hillary Clinton won the popular vote and would not be president. Donald Trump would not have become president in any other country than the United States because of the stupid electoral college system that we have. But nonetheless, I think that's what happened. Kamala Harris had 103, 104 days to run a campaign. They did a great job. They raised a lot of money. But in all, the American people went with the stronger brand by 1.6% more percentage points as far as the popular vote goes. In essence, we lost this election, our side. I think it was by about 250,000 votes in about 3 states, and Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania. So if those things go another way, then Kamala Harris is the president of the United States. Now, I'm not saying that's not a loss. That's an L. But we have all of these people now that are trying to tell you, we need to do this and that. We need to readjust this. We didn't do this. We didn't do that. We didn't do that. The third. I've always used the analogy these days that the Democratic Party has a flat tire. Fix a flat tire. We don't need to rip the engine out. We don't need to get a new timing belt. We don't need to get a new block. We don't need to rip out the interior. We don't need to do any of that stuff. We don't need to fix the chassis. This is a flat tire. Jack it up. Put a spare on there. Take your lumps. And you move on. I'm not necessarily, I love Bernie Sanders and I love Nancy Pelosi and what they've done for our party, even though I think Bernie Sanders has only been a member of the Democratic Party for about a year and a half when he was running for president. I just, all of this talk about, oh, we didn't do this for the working people. And, oh, if she would have just gone on Joe Rogan. And I don't find any of that to be especially helpful. And there's a lot of finger pointing out there, but I think essentially that's my bottom line, is that we got beat by a stronger, more well-known brand.
I agree with the brand, but there's more that I would add to it. I think that considering all the baggage associated with that well-known brand, convicted felon, rapist, misogynist, for crying out loud, he talked about the size of a man's penis in a rally, and that didn't cut through. I think when you go back and look at the numbers, another reason why Kamala lost is because 2 million registered Democrats sat on their hands and didn't show up.
That's right.
And within that, we had people that actually voted for Trump and Bernie, voted for AOC and Trump. And in the state we live in, our whole Democratic ticket, as far as state is concerned, governor, lieutenant governor, treasurer, all went blue, but a lot of those people still voted for Trump. For me, what I think it was, Brit, I kind of feel like the Dems went too far to the right instead of just being authentically progressive. I felt like people felt like Kamala was not authentically progressive.
Well, I think that's I think that's a genuine and a legitimate beef. Thankfully, in North Carolina, we had one of the worst governors. I think the worst gubernatorial candidate I've ever seen in my lifetime. He was.
I'm sorry. God, ladies and gentlemen, we've talked about Mark Rob the Buffet Robinson on this channel before. So y'all have to. I'm sorry. It's wrong that I bust out in laughter to interrupt this man, but Brit, forgive me.
He got the endorsement from Donald Trump pretty early on, and we were always. I know that you listen to our podcast a bit. I was always very puzzled because we would go back to the beginning of the summer, and this is the 9th most populous state in the union. When you have a major party candidate for the highest office in the state, they tend to pour a ton of resources into the state. People have done this professionally. They run campaigns, and they do messaging, and they do polling, and they do internet stuff, and they do outreach. And he had a website in May and June that looked like he was running for the city council in like Brown Summit or something. I mean, it was horrific. There was never a decent infrastructure for him to do anything. And then finally, after a while in late summer, they started putting some, and by then that's when all the stuff came in about the black Nazi stuff and the horrific kind of human being that he was. So that was part of what played, and he ends up losing North Carolina, I think, by about 14 or 15 points, which thank God. If we had to deal with Donald Trump and Mark Robinson together, the good news that you talk about kind of proves my point about somewhat of the strength of the Democratic Party is that, Josh Stein, who is going to be our governor, and Rachel Hunt, who's going to be our lieutenant governor, and Jeff Jackson, who's going to be our attorney general, some of those offices, there is an appeal to the business-minded folks in North Carolina, as well as the working people. There are a lot of working people that looked at Mark Robinson and went, I just can't get with that. That's not going to work for me. So I think that there's some of that. When you talk about the Democrats that sat on their butts and didn't get out and vote, this to me sort of puts the lie to the whole echo chamber argument that we've been told for a number of years, that we have these various echo chambers and we need to branch out. And, I don't believe that now. I think we just need to scream into our echo chambers a little bit louder. All they have on that side is echo chambers. They got the Fox News, they got Steven Crowder, they got Joe Rogan, they got Ben Shapiro, they've got all of those, Charlie Kirk and all those people. We need to develop our guys. There have been some sort of discussions that there needs to be a left-wing Joe Rogan, and God forbid that ever happen. But I've been listening to a lot of the voices on our side, and I think they're starting to build up, and people are starting to figure out, hey, we need to support this. I'm talking about people like, there's a guy named David Pakman that I listen to quite a bit, and
I listen to him too.
He's fantastic, and I immediately threw down a subscription to his stuff because he had a sweet discount on it too, right after the election.
Oh God!
I went
You're already starting the Black Friday. He's starting the Black Friday. It's not even Thanksgiving, Brit. Golly.
David Pakman does a good job. Crooked Media, the guys that do Pod Save America, fantastic job. The Majority Report with Sam Cedar. I wrote some of these down. Brian Tyler Cohen is another guy that I listen to a bit. The Bulwark podcast, those are Never Trumper guys with Tim Miller and that bunch. I think they all do a good job. We need to scream into our echo chamber a little bit more because we obviously didn't inspire our crowd enough. And more people in general in America are getting their news from sources like this, like podcasts and things that are targeted completely towards them. So as far as branching out and, oh my God, if she would have just gone on Joe Rogan, and if she would have just gone on Fox News 5 more times, all this other happiness, I don't believe in it. I think we have to develop that stuff. And one of the great developments that I've seen since the election is the emergence of this Blue Sky platform, which is I think a real legitimate contender to Twitter. I think it's going to be something that we need to exploit from our side as a great way to get our message out, get the discussions out, and just really motivate people to go out and vote.
You know who started Blue Sky?
It was Jack Dorsey, the Twitter people, right?
Old Twitter guy. Yep, exactly. That's who started it.
And then he bailed on it. He bailed on it immediately, like a couple years ago.
Can you blame him? It was a smart move. It was a smart move. He's an investment guy too. It was a very smart move. I'm glad he got out when he did. And Blue Sky has been taking off since post-election. And to some great points you made, I don't think that she should have went to any more places. She did a good enough job. And when we're delivering this message, we've got to remind people that we are progressive. I think that's the only thing that I would say. The people that sat on their hands felt like she wasn't progressive enough to wash out his just radical right-wing BS. And someone would tell me the country just wants more. The country didn't want any of that far left-wing-ish. I was like, what the hell? You mean to tell me you would rather have someone who hug a tree? You would rather have someone who's going to grab a woman by the pussy than someone who would hug a tree? Because that's their derogatory term for far left.
And I always want some politician to go out there. What is far left? Are we talking about the 70% of people in America who believe that a woman should have a right to choose her own health care and what happens over her own body? Are we talking about the 70% of America that wants to have reasonable background checks on handguns? Are we talking about the 70% of America that believes that we should have the Affordable Care Act and we should have options? Is that radical? Are these radical left-wing policies? Because if it is, then we live in a very socialist country, apparently.
Well, I mean, America, people tend to forget America has always been a mix of capitalism and socialism. You work somewhere that some people would call a social construct. You get paid from the state, okay? Yep. The government is paying people. That is a government. That's a social program. Medicare, Medicaid, social programs. And let us not forget the one that we paid into, Social Security, that's distributed from the government. A wise politician on the right once said, we cannot keep giving people stuff, because if we do, they'll want it and want to keep it, and whoever does that the most will get the vote. Ladies and gentlemen, there are certain things in this country that the majority of the American people view the government should help us do. Healthcare, college, education, childcare. More tax breaks for middle class, more tax breaks for small businesses, and stop this whole talk about the Republicans love to talk about special interest groups. Stop that shit, okay? The special interest groups y'all take care of are the top 10%, damn it. That's their special interest group right there. But before I get on a tangent, Brit, because I'm known to get on these tangents, let me give you the list. Now, we might not get through the whole list, but let me give you the list. It's very interesting. It's only 7 things on the list. First one, tech bros kissing Trump's ass. That's number 1. Yeah. Right. Number 2, Trump's clown show cabinet and his plans for federal workers. Okay. Right. Gaetz is out. Will Marjorie Trailer Park Trash Green spill the beans?
Oh, yeah.
Number 5, Hawley hollering. Josh Hawley. Number 6, democracy versus a republic. And last but not least, Brit, Texas-sized commandments in your child's classroom. Which one?
So much. Do you want to? We can get into those. Do you want to do Matt Gaetz first, because that was the news from yesterday?
Okay, let's get into Matt Gaetz. So I have an excerpt of what went down. Matt Gaetz, ladies and gentlemen, was up for a cabinet position. He resigned, and then after that, he's not going to be coming back for his Congress seat either. But Marjorie Taylor Greene had some things to say about what would happen if Matt Gaetz did not get that cabinet seat. And shout out to this YouTuber. He's a good buddy of mine that does great on politics. Listen to him explain what MTG had to say.
All right, friends, Marjorie Taylor Greene was never a beacon of mental health to begin with, but she seems increasingly... All right, friends, Marjorie Taylor Greene was never a beacon of mental health to begin with, but she seems increasingly deranged and unhinged, and really at the worst time. She won. Her party won. Trump won. She is a devout Trump cultist. He's about to become president of the United States. She's not only going to retain, or rather her party is not only going to retain control of the House of Representatives, they've got the Senate too. And when you combine all these things with a pliant conservative supermajority in the Supreme Court, I mean, it's like Christmas come early for MAGA. Why are you so upset? I don't know, but she is. I talked about it last week where she is resuming her fight, her public feud with Republican Speaker Mike Johnson. Well, now she's like dropping other bombs, proverbially speaking, on the floor of the House of Representatives, threatening her colleagues, including Republicans. So we're going to start with this. For my Republican colleagues in the House and Senate, if we're going to release ethics reports and rip apart our own that Trump has appointed, then put it all out there for the American people to see. Yes, all the ethics reports and claims, including the one I filed, all your sexual harassment and assault claims that were secretly settled paying off victims with taxpayer money. The entire Jeffrey Epstein files, tapes, recordings, witness interviews. But not just those, there's more. Epstein isn't the only asset. If we're going to dance, let's all dance in the sunlight. I'll make sure we do.
Brit.
Isn't in your community, isn't that called telling on yourself?
That's called snitching. Brit.
It's called.
Isn't
she
first
kind
of all, Brit, first of all, who would want to get in them trailer park tranny trash panty drawers in the first place? But you know what? My grandma once said, if it has 4 lips and it bleeds for 7 days, a man will get in it. So let me take that back.
You get into Washington, D.C., and it's like, I don't know, a target-rich environment, or it's like you're a comic book guy. It's a Yellow Sun or whatever. Your options seem a bit limited, and you get a little drunk, and then things start happening. You never know what could happen. Isn't she basically just saying that they're full of sexual deviance in the Republican Party? Isn't that essentially what she's saying right now? Isn't she saying that?
That is completely what she's saying. She is completely, yes. You know, she's kind of like that woman, and I'll put a picture up here for y'all to see her beauty and glory, looking like the Beast from Beauty and the Beast. She is basically telling you, ladies and gentlemen, that if Gaetz doesn't get the job, which he doesn't have it, she is going to start telling on who has been hitting on her, apparently, who has sexually harassed her to the point where she's received some payments. That's what she's about to start doing. So now that he's resigned, Brit, the question is she going to spill the beans?
In that picture you showed, she looks, she's about a Washington 6, which means she's a Georgia 7.
How many beers you got to have before you hit it?
That's an 8. That's a 12 pack.
Okay.
I'm thinking at that point, who knows? I might be out. There is a larger point. There is a larger point to be made. You're already seeing the infighting among these people. These people can't govern. And if you were paying attention, and I know you were back in 2021 when the Republicans took control of the House, and you remember they were almost having fistfights on the floor, and Matt Gaetz almost got his butt kicked by that car dealer from South Carolina over the 12 or 15 or 20, how many ever ballots they had to go through to get Kevin McCarthy, voted Speaker of the House. And you had literally members of the Republican caucus months into this, because I think McCarthy lasted 6 or 8 or 9 months. They would come before the cameras and go, look, we can't govern. We can't do it. We can throw rocks and pebbles all day long. We can't govern. And you're already seeing the sectarian fights within Trump world. The promise this time around was that we're not going to have that stuff. Last time when he came into the Oval Office, Reince Priebus kind of had his group, and then there were some other people that had their group, and then you had the crazoids that were supporting Trump. And eventually General Kelly and some of those guys were able to kind of slow walk his ideas. He would tell them, I want you to go out and do this and make sure it's done by noon. And they would okey doke him. The promise this time was that he's not going to have the resistance. Well, you're already seeing the resistance within the party. You're already seeing the J.D. Vance. He's kind of getting left out. He doesn't like that so much. Obviously, Elon Musk has his thing going on. And then Steve Bannon, who's like, wait, I'm an OG. You guys got to start listening to me. So they're already starting with this 2.5 weeks in. and you're already seeing the infighting. Ultimately that's with all of our snide remarks and everything else. By the way, that report should still, I think, be released because, hey, I'm a taxpayer. We paid for it. And if there's pedophilia going on, I think that's a good idea to go ahead and have that exposed. But yeah, the larger point would be that these people cannot govern. They're already starting with the infighting, and that's what we're going to do. Now, I know that there are some people on social media that are very frustrated. You got to get out there and fight. Oh, you got to get out. No, if they're out there shooting themselves in the foot, just stand back and let them shoot themselves for a while. There's no problem with that. Let these guys do it because that's what they're going to do for a little bit. However, banking on incompetence has its limits. I will say that.
Right. For me, a couple of the larger points is, number one, trying to rush through these cabinet appointments. He's not even going through the proper background checking that everybody needs with him trying to rush through. And I'm not even going to get into the whole recess appointment thing. He's trying to circumvent constitutional. I ain't even going to get into all that. But that's one of the bigger points that Marjorie is trying to step on. And the other point is, we need to know, it needs to be put on display. And I don't know if that'll change the people who love MAGA so much mind, but let us all know who are these sexual deviants that we're paying all this money to, that most likely that paid you off to stay away, use government money to do it. And
well, it's quite obvious. It's quite obvious also that if he was found to be blameless in this report, we'd have it plastered everywhere. I mean, come on. It'd be in Times Square by now if he didn't have any fault at all. If they had nothing on him, get out of my face with that stuff.
And I'll give you this tidbit from people that went to school with Matt Gaetz. The way he is now, Matt get them before they 18 Gaetz. That's how he was in high school.
There was Rick Wilson had this story on one of the Bulwark podcasts. When he was in the Florida legislature, they had a game, him and some of the other awful, horrible guys that were hanging around there trying to bang anything they could. They had a game that they would play where they would give themselves points for the number of women that they could get with in a particular year. And you got 1 point for an intern. You got like 2 points for a staffer. And if you could bank your buddy's wife, you got like 3 or 4 points. And they would just compare notes on that stuff. Yeah, that's something that he did. Yeah, that is something that Matt Gaetz did when he was in the Florida legislature.
Whoa. Hold up. I got to sit up on this one. Wait a minute. Wait. Did you say get your friend's wife?
Yeah. If you could bang your buddy's wife, you got even more.
Okay.
It's an amazing. I've had in the past 2 weeks the opportunity to listen to all of the podcasts. I've listened to all of them, and I've digested it, I've ingested, I've internalized it, I've turned it around, and I can give you the best of and the worst of some of that stuff. And that's something that Matt Gaetz did when he was in the Florida legislature.
Wow.
Yeah.
And one thing that we always say in the Black community, not you, but the Republican diehards, they do a lot of projecting, a whole lot of projecting onto other special interest groups and people, what they are deep, darkly keeping in the secret doing. And for years, all we've heard is that those Black people and their dicks and those women, they are sexual deviants. Ladies and gentlemen, that was a projection. That was
it's the Mandingo myth, right? That was the Mandingo myth that was always something that was thrown upon Black men, especially. And these guys are worse than any of that bullshit.
God.
And as far as covering it up, and we can get into that too. Some of the Black guys that supported Donald Trump, we're talking about Byron Donalds, and we're talking about Mark Robinson, some of those guys. You just aren't seeing them taken care of right now, are you, buddy? They're just not really part of in the picture right now, are they?
Brit, why would they? The two whitest administrations in the last 100 years reside under the same damn president, Trump and Trump. Not Brad and Brit, Trump and Trump. The two whitest administrations in history. Now, he did have Elaine Chao in the last one, but that was 1% of the whole administration. Ladies and gentlemen.
Well, his minority. I think his minority representation right now is Vivek Ramaswamy, who's part of this fake thing that they made up with Elon Musk. It's not really even a department. It's somebody said it was like when you give the kid the game controller and you don't plug it in. That's basically what they're doing with those guys.
I was going to save all my jokes about comparing this administration to my 4-year-old and my 15-month-old, but I'm gonna save it for the end. Let me give you the list, man. Ladies and gentlemen, let us know what you think about MTG. Should she come forward and reveal this information? She should. Okay, so this is what you got. You got 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
I want to do. Let's talk about those tech bros. That number 1, I think, is what you had.
God, yes, that's number 1. Lord Jesus Christ.
And by the way, we'll put the tech bros and the crypto guys kind of in the same category because it's kind of the same sort of culture.
Yeah,
So
both of these videos I have, we'll merge them. We'll do kind of the positive video discussion after the first one, which is let me just go ahead and get into it. So, ladies and gentlemen, what we have going on now, and some of y'all have been following me for some of my real estate and stock advice.
Yeah.
We've got tech bros who formerly voted Democratic mostly because they believe in logic, reasoning, and critical thinking. And what have we seen this party? We've seen the guy who ran Poly, whatever the thing was, he done got busted. They done came and raided and took his equipment because they want to know how was he able to be so accurate in pinpointing this election. And when that led to tech bros getting that information from him and seeing the writing on the wall, and now all of a sudden they pitching for Trump, someone who does not believe in logic, reasoning, and education. Let's take a look at Brad Gushner, who just made me so damn upset. And we'll get to Elon in a minute, but let's just take a look at what Brad had to say first.
This feels to me like, the goalposts moved. Yeah. This feels to me like, the goalposts moved. Yeah. Musk's proximity to power, that dynamic has changed. He is becoming quite obvious, a very influential voice in some of the policies that are going to happen, whether they are beneficial to him personally or beneficial to his companies, plural, because I think you could make that argument. That's what this strikes me as, is the goalposts moving in some respects to favor Tesla and in some respects hurt the competitors.
No, I would disagree with that. I think the
regulations that we said of ending the EV tax credits, easing the self-driving regulations, those are undeniable.
But if they change the regulations, but FSD wasn't killing it the way 12.5 is and the way FSD 13 is going, where you have 1,000x improvement in full self-driving safety in 1 year alone versus the 10% per year we were getting up until 2020 because we've gone from these deterministic models to these imitation learning models. It's about the performance at Tesla that is driving us. Now, sure, I think national regulation makes sense. In a country of interstate commerce, does it make sense that one state's going to allow me to drive my Tesla on full self-driving mode, then I get to the state intersection between Texas and Oklahoma, and I no longer can use full self-driving? I have to stop the car and change the mode of driving? That doesn't make any sense, right? We drive cars across state borders. So having a national regulatory framework, not just for Tesla, for everybody, for GM, for Waymo, for everybody, that's just the right policy. I don't think it's about favoring Musk or his companies, though I think regulatory clarity is needed in this country.
Look, Brit, I can't with the tech bros having fucking geekgasms as if they love Trump. In that same statement, I didn't want to run this thing too long. Not only does he say that tech Silicon Valley is happy with Trump because he's easing regulations, but also because he's lowering taxes. But then you just come back and double speak and say we need regulation so that I can drive full self-driving across state lines. For full disclosure, Brad Gershner, he runs a tech innovation company, and he has a fund that he does. He's also a good investor, and he's a tech investor, but he also has a whole lot of money in Tesla and Uber, and formerly voted and pledged to the Democratic Party. And now all of a sudden we're jacking off because Trump is claiming to ease regulations. If I were president, Brit, I would have this for Silicon Valley. We need to make education great again. I believe in that. But you can't have it both ways. You can't get your taxes lowered if you're a multi-billion-dollar company and then expect us to just say hand washing the regulations that can help save people. You can't get both. I would cap the taxes and go through easing the regulations that we can, which they would tell you would improve their bottom line, right? Because if you get rid of some of these erroneous regulations, it's not as hard to get into the game. So having said that, Britt, I give the floor to you. What do you think on the tech bros and this just hand-wringing of Democrats and blaming it all on regulations and just this love fest with Trump when he's the complete antithesis of education and knowledge?
Now, I suppose you've seen the recent study that just came out about Teslas being way more dangerous than any other vehicle. I guess you've seen that as well.
Yeah, and for full transparency, people, I have 2 Teslas, and I got them both when Elon Musk was a Democrat. And now
Well,
I can ride to the grocery store. People look at me like with the side eye, you like Trump, and it's like no.
Like,
No, I can't even get my damn grapes, Brit. I can't get fresh grapes for my children because people looking at me getting a Tesla. Damn it, I'm gonna get a Rivian. Fuck it.
these guys, these tech guys are always looking for their next kind of zeitgeist savior. For a while, it was Steve Jobs. And then he died. I know that for a number of years when Travis Kalanick started Uber, Travis Kalanick was their god. And then eventually he was shown the door because he wasn't that good as a manager of that company. And now they've looked toward Elon. Elon is their Lord and Savior. And now their Lord and Savior is interfacing with Trump. Don't worry. Give yourself a couple of years. Elon's going to be on MSNBC bitching about Donald Trump. That's almost written in the stars at this point. The tech bros from the beginning and during the campaign had already given their sign on this one that Kamala Harris was just stupid. She's not a bright person, and therefore we can just shit on her. And what's good for us and what's good for our economy is going to be Donald Trump. Completely ignoring that I believe the S&P 500 is up 25% or something like that year to date. Wall Street has done just fine. Wall Street has done very, very well, and the tech bros have done very, very well, and the crypto bros have done very, very well under the Biden administration. But we want to pretend that somehow there's been this draconian dark era and this inflation. No, inflation has hurt the American consumer, the American investor over the past. I think the median gain in the S&P 500 over the Biden years is going to be somewhere around 21, 22, 23%. That ain't too bad. Also, it's another great fallacy that the stock market does better under Republicans. And the data shows very clearly that the stock market does well under Democrats. Mostly, these are disaffected white males. Some of them grow up in very privileged areas. They don't have a lot of interaction with other people. They certainly don't have interactions with women. And they kind of want to have somebody on their side who kind of gets it and to tell them, if you want to take a couple liberties with a woman, that's okay. We're not going to get after you for that, buddy. It's all right. If you want to go out there and you want to just these are people who have ingested Ayn Rand. You know who Ayn Rand is? It was a big deal. I know back in the 80s when I was in school, it seemed like there were a lot of 15, 16-year-old boys that would go through a stage. Ayn Rand.
Britt, I know, but can you explain it to the audience that might not? I told y'all was going to get education from a talk legend. Here we go.
Ayn Rand was a novelist who would boil these things down, and Atlas Shrugged was her masterwork, but she also wrote a book called The Fountainhead, and she basically was telling essentially white guys, look, it's okay. You're the ones that really matter out there. You're the makers. Those other people are the takers. It's okay. We need to protect you. And people who are moochers, that's almost a term that she popularized, if not invented. The moochers of our society are the ones that you should really feel bad for, but not really. You shouldn't have that much sympathy for them. By the way, that includes people with physical and mental handicaps. You're the one that matters. We need to protect the makers. We need to protect the Henry Fords and the Elon Musks and the Steve Jobs and the Travis Kalanicks. Those people, yes. Everybody else, screw you. To hell with you. So they've internalized this. They believe, these tech bros and these crypto bros, that they are the important people that need to be protected. This is what the government needs to work for, is to help us out, not these people on these food stamps, not these people on this Medicaid. We're the ones they need to take care of. You're already seeing it right now with Elon Musk and this stupid Doge commission, whatever they're going to do. And they're poised to kick the shit out of Social Security and Medicare, which is two of the biggest safety nets that we've ever had. Now, there is going to be some controversy because by law, we're committed to this. And we would be breaking the law if we didn't spend the kind of money that we're supposed to spend. But do you think that these people are preaching to their friends in Silicon Valley and at their billionaires conferences and in their emails and their texts that, we're going to have to take a little haircut too, guys. Things are going to be a little tough for us over the next few days. No, the billionaires are going to be fine. They're getting another round of tax cuts. They're wanting to screw over the little guy, and they can't do it quickly enough. Going back to your point on education, these people don't want people to be educated. What do the polls show over and over and over again? The more education you have, the more likely you are to support the Democratic Party. Why do you think that they've shit on education over the years? No, you don't need to go do this. Just go to a tech school. Hey, I'm all for it. There's some guys that do HVAC and plumbing that can buy and sell my ass. They really can. They can get 2 or 3 more Teslas than you can. That's fine. But we also need people that go to 4-year universities and study stuff that's not necessarily related directly to what they do. We need people that can think about stuff outside of the box. So those are some of my thoughts about what the tech bros are doing. It's a very masculine, frat-like atmosphere. It's a very white bread atmosphere. They're very insular, and they've just convinced themselves that Kamala Harris was stupid, and this guy, Donald Trump, is going to cut taxes for very rich people, and he's going to get rid of regulations, and we're going to rock and roll, and that's what's good for America.
I also think that I think that they think Trump is stupid too, but he's more of a useful idiot. He's that stupid. I don't think that they feel like Kamala Harris was so dumb she could be a useful idiot. I feel like the tech bros feel as though they can pull one over the wall on Trump. But what have we seen? Yeah, he's dumb, he's stupid, but he's also a loose cannon. And Brit says something that is going to happen. Him and Elon Musk and JD Vance, ladies and gentlemen, don't let JD Vance fool you. They're all going to have a major split because, believe it or not, JD Vance is a product of the tech bros. Peter Thiel was his tech sugar daddy. And now that Thiel was able to infiltrate these other tech guys into switching over and coming to Trump, they probably have these meetings behind closed doors where, you know what, we just give him some money, tell him his hair is nice and that his skin ain't orange. He'll do what we want him to do. But they are going to come to a reckoning. And as Brit said, we do. Well, granted, I'm not lobbying that everybody needs an education. I'm not saying that. There are jobs that you can go get a couple of months degree for, that type of thing. But the majority of the people, to fortify their lifestyle, to fortify being able to take care of yourself, and to have critical thinking skills, you need to go to college. My wife is a doctor. Ain't nobody going nowhere to get no year worth of doctor training and pass a board. No, you can't do that. So we do need that going forward. And we also need this too. I think the tech bros is feeling like, look, we so close to large language models and robots. We don't need a new crop of intelligent people to run software because we can just get robots to do that shit. But if you guys stick with me, I'm going to drop a video on the conversation around just giving people a livable wage because that robot is coming. At the end of the day, for me, I think it's irresponsible for these tech guys to just say, you know what, we're in such a lofty position that we're willing to risk everything Trump stands for and know that we're going to be good, but anyone who makes less than 100,000 ain't. Because on the back end, we'll take care of them with our technology, but on the front end, they got to take care of us. So I just think it's irresponsible. And
no, but that's the mindset. I think you summed up the mindset absolutely perfectly. Would you be surprised though if in the future that Dr. Oz or somebody said, hey, we've got this new thing where you can be a doctor in a year. We have a doctor shortage. We're going to have a fast lane and we're going to make you a medical doctor in a year. And then you can do your residency in about 3 months, 15 months out the door. It's the new Trump University, Lamont.
Stop it. I don't stop that company. That education was never an education. I wouldn't even want my preschooler to go to that shit. Okay, that's why they had to file bankruptcy. And the second part to what Brit is talking about is this boom in crypto. And I got a video for that and a warning for those of y'all that follow me for stock tips. Take a look at this.
Coinbase is up yet again, nearly 20%. Bitcoin's 85,000. It's been pretty remarkable. Mackenzie Sigalos is here with us at Post 9. I mean, we know, I think we know or have a sense why, but you have more detail on really why, like what the expectations are that the market is betting is a game changer for crypto investing in general.
Yeah, so Scott, so much of this record surge in the crypto market comes down to 4 promises that Trump made to the industry. On day one, he says he'll fire SEC Chair Gary Gensler. That's very likely why you're seeing stocks embroiled in lawsuits with the regulators surging. Coinbase up around 20% today after ending last week 50% higher. Second thing here, the repeal of SAB 121, which is this niche accounting rule from the SEC that actually stands in the way of banks custodying cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. Trump also wants to launch a national crypto stockpile and take $16 billion worth of Bitcoin that the government already holds and permanently take it out of supply. And finally, I've talked to several Bitcoin miners, the CEOs from these companies. They are having closed-door meetings with Trump. They say that he's promising heavy investment in the rapid build-out of energy production and transmission infrastructure across the country. These mining stocks seeing double-digit percentage gains.
I mean, the point here is people really think this is just the beginning.
All right, I want your stock pick first off, because I want to hear what you think about what your stock advice is on this.
First of all, it's a long story, and I'll get to the point. So I do have some screen shares here of all the stocks. They're derivatives of cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. So we've got some stocks that go up when Bitcoin goes up. This is one.
Correct.
Don't buy it. This is another one. If I had to pick one to buy, this would be the one I would say buy. And here's another one. This would be the other one I would say buy. I believe in ETFs, especially if you're someone who's not been heavily into investing. This would be one to get into. Now, the one that I would say stay away from is this shit right here. MicroStrategy.
I've never heard of it.
Stay away. Don't chase, ladies and gentlemen. And these are all the reasons why I would say be careful. Brit, you're a couple of years older than me, so you remember the tech bubble and what happened with Enron, correct?
I remember the tech bubble, and I've got just a little bit of Coinbase because Brad told me to get a little bit of Coinbase. I do certainly remember Enron.
I got it right. Shit, I got it right.
Well, it's down today. Well, let me just tell you this. Until proven otherwise, all I believe that Bitcoin is good for is for drug cartels, the terrorist organizations to move money around. That's just me. Having said that, just in the past week or so, I've become part of the problem. I've already got a 457, and that's over doing some other things with basically invested in the S&P 500 index. That's good. I'm going to have a pension. That's good. Social Security, who knows? So just in the past couple of weeks, I put in a Roth IRA with Robinhood, and I said, I'm going to be part of the problem. I got some of the, what did I buy? I bought a little bit of FBTC, which is the Fidelity Wise Bitcoin Index.
Okay.
I got a little bit of gold. Okay. I got a little bit of gold. I'm not buying actual. I'm not going to be mining. I've got like 5 or 6 servers coming to my door. I'm going to start mining real quick. It's a great way for me to get rich. No, I'm not doing any of that shit. I'm going to get into these ETFs that trade this stuff. iBit is another one. I got a little bit of gold in there. I got NVIDIA in there. So that's going to be my speculative part. So I'm going to say something, but the crypto bros turned Donald Trump around the minute he figured out he could make a buck in this thing. Yeah, that was all there was to it. Because, a few years ago, he was saying it was a big scam. I too don't have a lot of faith in it, but hey, I'm going to go ahead and jump in the pool with y'all and make a couple bucks if that's what's going to be happening before this thing goes down. Because I think possibly it could very well go down. But these crypto bros and these tech bros, this is not a tremendous amount of money. I'm not basing my future retirement on this stuff, but I'm like, hey, if I can put a little cheese on the Whopper, why not? Go ahead and do that. Yeah. But this is again another very toxic, mostly private school driven culture, these crypto guys, and they think they're smarter than you, and they don't give a damn what happens to the middle class. They don't give a damn what happens to the poor people. And if they want to go ahead and just eliminate Medicare and Medicaid and all that shit, be fine by them, because that's exactly what they want. They've got an advocate for it. I did want to mention something before we got too far into this. There's a great podcast called Behind the Bastards, if you've ever heard it, and it's fantastic. There's a guy named Robert Evans who is the host of it, and they do a tremendous deep dive on Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel is been so damaging to the landscape. It's very good. There's also a 2 or 3 parter on Robert F. Kennedy Jr., which just absolutely will cement to you that he's much worse than you ever thought. He's a much worse human being than you ever thought. But I did want to make one comment before we dipped out of this about J.D. Vance, because J.D. Vance is drinking straight from the tap when it comes to that Ayn Rand stuff that I was talking about, where we got the makers, we got the takers. We're the good guys, they're the bad guys. It's war. We got to protect our guys and fuck the other guys. If J.D. Vance becomes president, which seems pretty possible in the next 4 years, that he's going to, I don't think Trump's going to make it through the term. If you've seen him lately, he looks even worse than he ever did on the campaign trail.
Definitely.
You're going to see a lot of that, the quote unquote libertarian stuff start to come into it until the American people start to feel the pain.
100%. And last point I'll make about the Bitcoin and this Trump trade crap. I believe in the technology that powers crypto blockchain. That is practical use. That's steps away from quantum computing. Believe in that.
That's fine. That's fine.
I do believe in Bitcoin. That's the only one. That's where I stop. And I don't own any, for full transparency. I don't own any, and I won't own any. I believe this is the next bubble. This is going to be just Enron. And you've already seen people set up these quick little servers, make up coins, and then your money's gone. You can't find a server because it's a blockchain, and it's hard to catch up with that stuff. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't listen to anything I'm saying, get Coinbase, get the ETF. You already see. I didn't rehearse this with Brit, and the 2 recommendations I gave, he basically spit them out. But if you're going to play in the micro strategy, in those derivatives, day trading or whatever you do, options trading, whichever one you do, I've always tell y'all to stay away from it. But if you're going to get in, you better be getting out quick. And just know that as quickly as micro strategy goes up, it can come down, because they're a complete derivative of Bitcoin. So when Bitcoin's good, they're doing good. If Bitcoin tanks, they're going to tank.
They tank.
Keep that in mind.
But don't make this part of your main financial plan or your retirement
Absolutely
plan.
Not.
This is ancillary. This is tertiary, whatever you want to call it. It should not be a main part of your retirement plan. I'm when it comes to that, I'm Warren Buffett. I don't really know a lot about the stock market, so I like that S&P 500 index all day long. And you can buy those in most retirement plans for whatever company or whatever entity you're working for, and you can get those things super cheap. The maintenance on that is like way cheap, and just let it ride. That's me.
Yeah. So what Brit doesn't know is me and Brad occasionally we hit each other up about stock picks and stuff like that. Because I do a lot of option trading. I'm a profitable day trader, and I have profitable long-term holdings, which mainly are ETFs that pay high dividends monthly.
Right.
And I got a couple of the high flyer tech stocks that I stay within. But what Brit said is absolutely correct. And if you're going to get an ETF, just make sure that your expense ratio is below 0.5. They shouldn't be taking that much more of your money. Just make sure it's low, make sure it's well diversified, make sure it pays you a dividend on top of that.
I'll tell you what I'm doing. I've got a 457 plan because I work for the government, which is, it's their version of a 401k. And I basically have it split. I've got, I don't have a tremendous amount of money. I've got 6 figures in there. I've got about what the average person in America has when they do those surveys of what's in the account. And it's evenly split between the Vanguard S&P index fund and something called VIGAX, which is VIGAX.
Like
VIGAX is very tech heavy. It's got names that NVIDIA is in there, Meta is in there, Alphabet is in there. There's a little bit of Tesla in there, and I think Visa, kind of randomly. So that one, I've got that one, and that's how I'm letting it roll. It's nothing exceptionally risky at all.
No. I mean, and for those that been wondering, where am I going to put out another video about what can they get now that could pop next year? Meta is down right now because Trump and Mark Zuckerberg don't get along well. So while all the other stocks were popping, Meta was dropping. The market was trying to say that something's going to happen to Meta. Let me just tell y'all one thing right now. Meta is what NVIDIA is to semiconductors.
Yeah.
Get that thing while it's down right now. It was like 550 today, and it's been as high as 601. Their data, and since they tightened their belts and they put a better focus on the damn metaverse, they got rid of that. They are going to be popping next year, because whenever you want data on people, you want to do advertisement, you're going to Mark Zuckerberg. And I have seen what they're doing with their AI and how they're incorporating it into the data that they already have on Meta, on Instagram, and on Threads. Y'all forget Mark Zuckerberg owns all that shit, okay?
He does.
Put some money down on Meta if you're going to pick one of these tech names. And with that, Brit, let me get you to the other one so we can get you out of here. So we've got 2, 5, 6, and 7.
Oh, you want to do the other cabinet picks? You want to talk about Pete Hegseth, the guy from Fox?
Yeah, let's do that because let's do that one, because within this excerpt I'm going to show you, it talks about cabinet picks, and it talks about that crazy shit Trump is trying to do with getting rid of 50,000 government workers in the first month. Take a listen to my homie, Miss Representative. Take a listen to this. Put that shit down, young lady. Put them down.
We've got now a worldwide wrestling executive who's going to run education. We've got a sexual predator who was about to have a bipartisan report released by the House of Representatives to be our AG. We've got a Fox News commentator who's going to run the military for us. So if my colleagues across the aisle want to talk about qualifications, they want to talk about efficiency, they want to talk about the federal workforce, then let's talk about it, because you're talking about putting into place leadership in these federal agencies who are absolutely unqualified, who are dangerous, and know nothing about the agencies that they're about to be appointed to lead. So this is not about qualifications. This is not about having a qualified federal workforce. This is about laying the ground for the purge that they plan on January 20th and in the days afterwards. And we know that because
Brit has something interesting to say about Fox News host. I can't even pronounce his name. I come from the country of Aden, North Carolina, so it's hard for me to pronounce these crazy ass names. Floor is yours, Brit.
The home of the Aden Grifton Chargers, who I think are going to be in the playoffs in the second round coming up tomorrow night.
Yes, sir.
Yes, tonight. Sorry about that. Pete Hegseth is he's not even on the varsity as far as Fox News. He's a weekend host on Fox and Friends. So he's a JV guy. And if I hope people are able to see the video. That's a very white cabinet. We got Vivek right in there, and he's again. That's a fake agency that Trump has made up. That Doge thing that he and Elon are doing. Pete Hegseth. I urge anybody to go read the report from the San Jose Police Department about the sexual violence that he allegedly inflicted on somebody. She seems very credible to me, and the greater point would be the Department of Defense is the greatest bureaucracy on earth. It is massive. He has no experience in any way running anything like that. I appreciate his military service and I thank him for that, but he's no more qualified to run that huge bureaucracy full of so many moving parts than I am. But he's another guy, tangentially, I do want to go out and talk about Nancy Mace, the representative from South Carolina, who made a big deal about who's going to go to the bathroom, where they have a transgender female who's going to be coming in from Delaware named Sarah McBride. And Nancy Mace was just all torn up that she was going to be using the same bathroom as this person. And Nancy Mace, in her explanation, said, look, I am a victim of sexual trauma. I don't know if she was raped or had sexual assault that was inflicted upon her. I have great empathy for that, but I would assume that Nancy Mace has been triggered and had some of the emotions come back because she's seen all of these Trump cabinet picks over the past week or week and a half. You almost have to have some sort of sexual violence in your background in order to get a pick. Pete Hegseth and Matt Gaetz, and we talk about Linda McMahon. There's also a scandal involved in there where she was allegedly covering up for some ring boys that were being sexually assaulted by one of the guys in WWE. And there's been
not to mention her husband has had to pay off a bunch of women to cover. It wasn't sexual assault, ladies and gentlemen. He just had a misconduct issue behind his back, his wife's back, and paid off several women. That's correct. And it's still, and that is still ongoing, but supposedly that investigation could be killed, I would think, after January. Let me pick a date, 20th. So yeah, these cabinet picks are, I mean, Marco Rubio looks like Adlai Stevenson by comparison. He looks like a great statesman, you know, he looks like he's gonna be, definitely one of those guys that just kind of floats in and is, you know, he looks like Alexander Hamilton or something at this point. Marco Rubio does. And he's really not that qualified to be Secretary of State, but compared to this other rogues gallery of guys, Linda McMahon, North Carolina native, went to East Carolina University, and now she's going to be in charge of apparently dismantling the Department of Education. And as we talked about, they don't want people to be educated. When you get educated, you tend not to vote for them. And she failed. She failed as the SBA leader the last time, and then dipped out on the job 2 years early to go run a Trump PAC. Linda McMahon. You want to go back a little further and talk about the 2 failed attempts she made to be senator from the great state of Connecticut? We can go even further back on that if you want to. Okay. Look, I was trying to keep it to the Trump era. You know what I'm saying? But if you want to go back to that, hey, but in recent era, she failed as a secretary and was accused and had lawsuits for giving money not to small business. The thing is called Small Business Administration. She was giving it to all her big rich buddies and using nepotism. And there was several lawsuits for that. That's one reason why she resigned early. And now y'all want someone whose whole job as being married to Vince McMahon is to create an illusion that something is real. You want that person to be the person teaching your kids, head of your kids' education. Stop it. I believe that her lawyer, I believe her attorney last week did make, or maybe even this week, made the case that she and Vince are separated. I do want to, for the record, I would like to put that out there. Okay. I mean, I would also like to put out there that maybe that would have been a good idea several years ago so that your assets may not be in jeopardy. But that's fine. You're good to like go. That. Lord have mercy. So yes, ladies and gentlemen. The fact of the matter is that they have not lived together as husband and wife, and I can say this without fear of getting sued, for many, many years, possibly a decade or more. They really haven't lived together as husband and wife for many, many years. I do want to get into for a moment the idea of just taking a sledgehammer and firing 50,000 people in the federal government and kind of workers, and there are going to be some that vote. Please do. Isn't that going to work counter to his unemployment numbers? Doesn't Trump pay great attention to his unemployment numbers? And wouldn't that be something that would be pretty detrimental to that? But does it count if you're a federal worker? I think it does, but he's going to try to figure out a way to make it not count. He's going to try to figure out a new way from the National Labor Relations or for the Department of Labor not to count those. Brit, this is how Trumpers think. They think that if you work for the government, it doesn't count as a job. That's right. They don't get it. And if he gets his choice, 50,000 people are going to be fired from the IRS if he can get his choice. Well, and who does that benefit? The rich people, of course. Rich people. That's when we talk about and you remember these discussions we would have on WZTK, which, by the way, this year was the 20th anniversary of us signing that radio station on. We would talk about taxes and raising taxes on rich people, and it would just be the worst thing ever. Oh my God, what are you going to do? We're the ones that achieve, and if you take this money away from us, we can't hire people. As it turns out, rich people have the means to hire these things called accountants and attorneys, and it helps them in not paying taxes. It's been ever thus. I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. So yeah, if you take a sledgehammer
to the IRS, take a sledgehammer to the federal government, start firing all these people. The unemployment numbers go up. And yeah, the rich people love you because you're going to collect fewer taxes from rich folks. Do you think the rich people in this country are having a bad time? Do you think that they haven't done well for the last, I'm going to go 50 years? The numbers very much show that after World War II, when the war was over, we had the great boom. And the middle class and the very wealthy, they went up in lockstep. And then about the mid-70s, the rich go, we're not okay with that. We don't want to do that.
See, Brit just want me to get on. He just hitting nerve points with me. He wants me to get on my tirade about trickle-down economics and capitalism and how the guardrails have failed. But I'm not going to do it today. I'm not going to do it today. But everything this man's saying is correct. Everything. Well,
it's also there was also a move by the Reagan administration to de-emphasize and get rid of unions. And the only thing that happens when you have unions is that the middle class does better. The wages go up, the benefits go up, the spending power goes up. Even staying on the job happiness, life expectancy, all of those things go up when the unions are strong, and they've been able to cripple it. And that side has been able to tie unions with socialism for such a long time that union participation is at a very low point. And you saw a number of those union guys who voted for Trump. Well, we're going to enter what they call the find out part of the program pretty soon, unfortunately, I think.
And the thing for me is I don't want people to suffer, but usually Republicans have to suffer before they see the light of day. And I just don't want that. And it bothers me that people don't already understand that America is a mix of social and capitalism. It should not be. Let me put it to you like this, audience. They have defanged racism nowadays. You walk down the street and call a white guy a racist. Oh, it's a badge of honor. We have got to defang this shit about socialism. Okay, we're already paying people from the government. The reason they want you to stay so engaged about that term is because the more stuff the government can do to benefit you, the more they know you would vote for that. And they don't want you voting for that. We have Medicare, we have Medicaid, we have public schools, which they're going to try to eat away at all that stuff. If it wasn't for some of these government initiatives, your boy Lamont Tyson might still be a damn slave. You understand? So it is nothing wrong to mention democratic socialism alongside capitalism, because half of the problem with capitalism is the guardrails have failed the hell off. One of the things in free market capitalism is supposed to be a body that governs itself with no monopolies. Competition is good. What has happened? Under this Trump administration, the stock market is jacking off because he's going to kill regulations. He's going to let these companies monopolize so that your ass is having to wind up paying more. And this whole thing about trickle-down economics. I said I wasn't going to do this shit, but I'm about to do it. But ever since the Reagan era, trickle-down economics had won an award to say that it helps people get out of poverty classes. When we have finally strongly seen categorically, it does not do that. It worsens that. And so to say that the richest people in this society either need to cap their taxes or pay more so that the bottom can come up is not a bad thing to say. It is not, ladies and gentlemen. And they always talk about how Democrats want to kick the can of the budget down the road. Well, let me tell you something. They do the same shit in the form of tax cuts, and tax spending on the stuff to their friends that they like to spend it on, while they expect you to suffer in the middle class and poor and pay more as inflation goes up and their wages go up. And when more money gets pumped into the market, guess who gets that money, ladies and gentlemen? It ain't you in the middle class and poor. The rich get the money. Then they are allowed the excuse to say that because we've got more money in the market, we have to raise the prices on our goods so their asses get paid twice while you get screwed. That is how you blow up a deficit too, ladies. And I ain't mean to get on my soapbox, but this shit got
that's all. Well, that's all.
Democrats can't put everything into a soundbite, ladies and gentlemen. And y'all about to make me run for office. That's what y'all gonna make me do. I can't deal with this mess. Brit doesn't know this, but y'all know I am switching the content on my channel from more doing movie and TV show reviews to this. and finances, and the movie and TV show review is going to be on the back burner. And I know I'm losing subscribers. I know I'm getting poor views, but this is more important, ladies and gentlemen. We've got to get back to making education great again. Floor is yours, Brit. Sorry about that rant.
Well, when you hear about Elon Musk cutting all this money from the budget, and he says we're going to have to feel some pain. He's not talking about him. He's not talking about his friends.
No,
he's not talking about those people. His friends are going to be just fine. You think that rich people are not? Do you think that rich people don't benefit from government programs? You don't think they get handed contracts? You don't think infrastructure benefits them? You don't think they get all sort of tax incentives when it comes to building a business? You don't think the cap on Social Security tax doesn't benefit the very wealthy? You don't think the death tax that they've tried to that's what they call it. That's the Frank Lutz wording on it. The inheritance tax. You don't think that the Republicans protecting them on that? You don't think that's a great assistance from the government? They got all kind of shit going toward them. And then for some reason, they've been able to tell very poor people that, hey, that guy over there, he's taking your shit. He's black, he's brown, whatever. But he's getting these food stamps. He's getting this free health care and shit. And that's really what's screwing you over. And they've been able to sell that to people. They've been able to sell that for a long time, and Donald Trump is one of the best messengers for that. The people that Donald Trump, particularly the poor white folks that Donald Trump appeals to, although he's got some appeal toward some other minorities as well, the poor white men especially they're being told they're not doing as well as daddy and granddaddy did because of these other people, because of these brown people and because of these trans people and because of all this other stuff. You don't have to go to school. You don't have to get a 4-year degree. We get rid of these brown people and we get these black people in check and we get these trans people in check. You're going to be just fine. And daddy's going to take care of that for you. That's what they've been sold. And you've already seen the buyer's remorse now from some of the Hispanics that voted for him who were like, no, he's going after the bad folks. No, he's going after you. He'll eventually turn his guns on you. This is what a lot of people don't understand, is that when you have a bigot in particular who's trying to point fingers at this, eventually they're going to get around to you. You know, I've always used that kind of example of, like, if you're in a group of guys and the guy starts making a Jewish joke and go, that's no big deal, I'm not a Jew. And then he makes a gay joke. You're like, I'm not a gay guy, so I'm okay. And then he makes a joke about a black guy, and you're like, well, I'm not black, it's okay. Well, eventually, don't worry about it. He's going to get around to you. It's going to
eventually happen. He will, definitely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to hold this man too much longer. I'm going to give him one final subject. This was a subject that made him drop his jaw when we started. And it made me drop my jaw because of my walk with religion and sometimes being quote unquote atheist, and now kind of trying to believe that there's some higher power somewhere. Well, how would you guys like to see in your state that you live in that they are getting ready to start posting up the 10 commandments in the classroom and start a full classroom curriculum in K-5 on the Christian Bible? Take a look at this, Brit, in Texas.
Looks like the Bible and its sage wisdom may be taught in Texas public schools beginning next school year. While the curriculum will still be optional for the 2 million public school children in Texas, this does signal a significant move toward erasing the separation between church and state.
The vote held by the Texas State Board of Education was preliminary, but the final vote is expected to take place later this week with the same outcome. Now, 8 of the 15 board members have already signaled support for this curriculum, which is titled Blue Bonnet Learning and is aimed towards students in kindergarten through 5th grade. Experts say it could become a model for other states. Now, one of the lessons includes teaching kindergartners about the Golden Rule, which revolves around a lesson on the story of the Good Samaritan and stems from Jesus' Sermon on the Mount from the Bible's New Testament, although the Golden Rule is found in many religious and just social traditions.
There is another lesson in this new Texas curriculum which refers to how Jesus appears in Renaissance artwork, like Leonardo da Vinci's painting The Last Supper. Texas was the first state to allow public schools to hire religious chaplains as school counselors, and the Republican-controlled legislature is expected to try once again to require public school classrooms to display the 10 Commandments. That's according to the New York Times. President-elect Donald Trump has invoked religious rhetoric throughout his past presidency and campaigns. After his first assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania, he said, quote, "Many people have told me that God spared my life for a reason, and that reason was to save our country and to restore America to greatness," end quote.
Lord have mercy. Why ain't that hairpiece Trump has caught on fire yet?
Remember,
Brit,
his punishment will be in the next life, not in this one.
Everybody don't believe in that, Brit. And here's my thing with religion. We know that it's not even an American thing. It is since the inception of religion thing. Societies and the powers that be will use religion to control the masses. At one point in time, Brit, they was preaching in America that the Bible said slavery was a good thing.
That's correct.
One point in time.
That's correct.
And we're supposed to have a clear separation of church and state. And to waste.
They'll break their legs trying to tell you that it's not in the Constitution. It does not say. But you know where that does appear. You know where that phrase first appeared.
Please educate everybody on it.
It was a letter that Thomas Jefferson wrote. He was the third president of the United States, considered one of our founding fathers. So one of our founding fathers thought it was a pretty good idea, even if it isn't codified. This particular law,
they don't care about that. They don't care about the founding fathers, not that group of people.
Well, they think it was some heathen like Madeleine Murray O'Hare or somebody that came up with separation of church and state, and it wasn't.
Right.
This is a law that's going to be challenged in courts. If it gets struck down, then Trump will go, we'll just send some death threats toward the judge and get one of my judges in there. This is a good chance for me to plug something called The Rise and Fall of Mars Hill, which Christianity Today put out a couple of years ago, one of the hits of the pandemic. Fantastic podcast, which I'm kind of obsessed with over the past few years. And the villain, if you will, of that entire podcast is a guy named Mark Driscoll, who ran one of the largest mega churches in America up in Seattle. It's a great story. Mark Driscoll was driven from the pulpit by people who he mistreated. There is a mentality there in that segment of Christianity. It's not quite Christian nationalism, those people, but it's pretty close enough for jazz, as the saying goes. Mm-hmm. Mark Driscoll, before the election, had a little, he had to make sure he told everybody he was going to vote for Trump. And he had a little round table at his church with Carrie Lake, the Republican who was running for the Senate, and Charlie Kirk, who lives in the Phoenix area, I think. So he is all in on Trumpism. He's all in on telling people about Trumpism. And I would not be surprised. Remember the name Mark Driscoll, because he may be saying the prayer on January the 20th at the inauguration. I know that's something he has aspired to do for a long time. And if he can get in the ears of the right people, he will do that. It behooves all of us to study that segment of evangelicalism. And Stephen Furtick down at the Elevation Church in Charlotte is another guy who is kind of in that way, not as political as Mark, but he also kind of goes along that same line. It behooves all of us to study the retail Christianity these guys are putting out there so that we can arm ourselves, because this is the sort of thing that's going to happen in a lot of ways. They're going to try to put this stuff in here. Now, is it going in the classrooms where the teachers are performing that gender reassignment surgery, or is it not? I'm curious, because, I was hearing about that a lot during the campaign.
It's supposed to be a full-fledged curriculum.
Okay.
And
gotcha.
My beef with this is, why are we wasting time teaching theology when most people don't graduate high school with any sense of finance, any sense of money? And then the other thing is they're taking history out of school. On top of that, they're taking Maya Angelou out of school books in Florida.
Of course they are. Because that makes white people feel bad. You can't have Maya Angelou in schools.
If I'm a Muslim and you show me, as they said in this excerpt, a white Jesus, how's that going to make me feel?
Exactly. There is a segment of America that has been told repeatedly that ever since prayer was taken out of the classrooms, it really wasn't. Teacher-led prayer was taken. If you're a kid and you want to say a prayer in the classroom to yourself, you can do that, and you have been for many, many years, for decades. But there's a segment of this country that's been told once they took particularly Christianity, out of the classroom, that's when America has gone to hell. That's when you're seeing the violent crime. That's when you're seeing the godlessness and the divorce rate and all of this other happiness. And of course, the actual facts and statistics don't support any of that. So I used to say, what used to be true was that Republicans would say that Democrats just do stuff and spend money on stuff to make themselves feel good. Doesn't really accomplish anything, but it makes them feel like they're doing something for the homeless or the underprivileged or single mothers. That's been flipped 180 degrees. This isn't going to accomplish anything, but it's going to make them feel good that they're doing something. And that's what Republicans do now, is they're doing all of this bullshit that just kind of makes them feel good and makes them feel they're so happy right now and they're so celebratory right now. They forgot to be pissed off about the Starbucks cups at Christmas this year. They're not even doing that this year.
Oh yeah. Are we allowed to? What can we not say? We can't say Merry. We got to say Happy Holidays.
If you say Happy Holidays, apparently that pisses them. And now you're allowed to. Since Trump has been reelected, you can say Merry Christmas to people. It's okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Brit Whitmire, one half of the wildly popular left-leaning podcast, The Brad and Brit Show. His link is in the description. And he also does a wrestling podcast for all my old school wrestling fans out there. The Katie Vick is Alive is in the link below. And Brit, I just got to say, it's been an honor to have you. And whenever I have a celebrity of your magnitude come on the show, I have to give you the Oscar ovation. And here it is.
Oh, man, that makes me want to go slap Kevin Hart. No, sorry. Makes me want to go slap Chris Rock. Sorry.
Now, let me tell you one thing that's going on with Black people in the community we live in.
Yeah.
I can hardly go in the store now without people voted for Trump looking at me with their chest out and happy. This is real. This is a real thing. They do this passive aggressive stuff, almost trying to invoke something to happen.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I've got my own little coalition, you and Brad included, that keep me grounded to know that there's going to be a better way to fight what's going on. And that would be my closing word to all of you people that are going through the same thing.
Do you remember 2005 after George W. Bush had been reelected?
I do remember it. I do. I was in college.
Brad made the mistake of voting for him and has always regretted it. And there were a number of us that were like, okay, we lost. We'll step away. We'll just deal with whatever. And we would have these people that you're talking about, the people who voted for Bush, specifically come back to us because it was a horrific year for him. I'll remind everybody. There was a failed attempt to privatize Social Security. There was the terrible response to Hurricane Katrina. There was the nomination of a woman to the Supreme Court who never had any business being nominated for the Supreme Court, named Harriet Miers, and they had to pull that. He pissed off a lot of conservatives by turning over security of the U.S. ports to Dubai. It was, if you're a big Simpsons fan, it was basically when Sideshow Bob keeps stepping on the rakes over and over again. So these people would come to us and they would go, this guy kind of sucks. I mean, yeah, we know. We try to tell you. And they would come back to you a couple of weeks. No, this guy really sucks. Yes, I know. We tried to tell you. And they would keep coming back to you. Man, he really, no, I know. We tried to tell. That's what we're going to be dealing with, I think, for a while. And you talk about the pain that people are going to have to feel. And I don't want it to happen either. And I certainly don't want to be collateral damage, but there's going to have to be a bit of pain for people to understand what a mistake they made.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, it always happens. You get a Republican in office for even a short time, they fuck shit up, and Democrats always got to come behind and clean the shit up. Because Republicans believe in what Rahm Emanuel said. You never let a good crisis go to waste. And if you can't find a good crisis, then damn it, you make up one. So we can spend the money. Yep.
100%.
And having said that, ladies and gentlemen, we are out of here. Don't forget to go if you want to donate to my script, where we got Black Americans getting superpowers, saving America. You can go to donate to that. If you want to help donate for my film studio, you can donate to that. Check out my man, Brit Whitmire. Send some prayers if you believe in prayer for his co-host, Brad. And until that next Sex is Hell political video, keep learning with us and I'll twist his arm to get him back, and next time without a Raiders hat. We out.